Good evening, folks. It's Tuesday, March 28th. I had some information that I've come across, and I wanted to follow up yesterday's Front Post Porch with a new video discussing the articles that I found, or perhaps better to say, I was referred to them. And I've got some questions that relates to all of it. So let's just dive right in. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. Step on up to my electronic front porch and let's talk. Even though I'm relatively new in the social media content creation world, I sort of have a rule going in. And that is if you're going to borrow something off of someone else, always give them credit. Now, I don't suppose you could technically call this borrowing, but I'll say it like this. Another content creator did a video earlier today, pointed out a piece of information that I wasn't aware of, and it got me thinking about the whole issue, so I wanted to address it as well in my own way. So first of all, to Jeremy Hambling of the Quartering, yeah, I got this idea to talk about this issue from you. So dude, you're the one that pointed me to this article. I give you full credit for it, and I'm just going to try and give my own take on it because I think I've got some questions that I'd like to have answered. Anyway, let me get to the article. This comes from the Daily Caller. Take a look at this. Nashville police refuse to release trans school shooters manifesto. Now, for those of you who may not know what this is, it has been reported that the shooter of the 6 individuals at the Nashville Christian school went down yesterday, Monday the 27th, wrote down some type of manifesto. Now, what it is, what necessarily all is in it, we don't know. We do know that this individual, the perpetrator, wrote down quite extensively something about what they were going to do, what they were thinking, what they were feeling, etc. Now, personally, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Let me go through a little bit of this article. This is written by the Daily Caller News Foundation contributor Kate Anderson. Nashville police will not be releasing the manifesto of the deceased Covenant School shooting suspect, a police spokesperson told the Daily Caller News Foundation on Tuesday. Nashville Metro Police Department announced that they had found writings from 28-year-old suspect, I will not mention names, Monday that indicated a, quote, calculated and planned attack according to Nashville Memphis Police Department press release. An NMPD spokesperson told the Daily Caller News Foundation Tuesday that the department had no intentions of releasing the documents to the public anytime soon, citing the ongoing investigation. Quote, we will not be releasing the manifesto during an open investigation, the spokesperson told DCNF. The police spokesperson did not say for certain whether or not the manifesto would be released in the future after the investigation was closed, and restated that this was due to ongoing nature of the situation. There was no intention by law enforcement to release the documents. Nashville Memphis Police Department Chief John Drake confirmed to reporters during a press conference the shooting was a targeted attack and said that he would elaborate on that at a future date. We, quote, we have a manifesto. We have some writings that we are going over that pertain to this day, Drake said. We have a map drawn out of how all this is going to take place. Okay. I've got various thoughts on this piece of news. Number one, I don't like it. On the other hand, I also understand it. I've read a lot of, like most people, I've read a lot of news stories over the years of police departments that were in the middle of an issue, an investigation, an ongoing situation, etc. It's not necessarily uncommon for them to take the stance that they will not release to the public information that they have if it's an open investigation. I understand the why. In this case, I really don't like it. I don't think people's desire to know what's in the manifesto is necessarily driven by any kind of a desire to jeopardize the investigation of the police. Okay. I'm trying to balance two things here, and I think this is where I personally am torn. There are a lot of my conservative brethren and social content media creators who are like, release it all, release it now. Okay, but what if there's something in that manifesto that goes beyond the issue of just purely explaining motive on the part of the shooter? What if there are names of other individuals? What if these individuals are either accomplices to the act, or perhaps they are individuals that will carry out other acts beyond the one that happened on Monday? Like I said, I can understand the police department's hesitancy to release this if it's an open investigation. Now, I totally disagree completely with the idea we're not going to release it at all. That's absurd. Once the investigation is closed, that manifesto should be a matter of public record. Put it out there. Because honestly, if we as a society are going to address what happened, figure out what happened, figure out if there's anything we can do to prevent this from ever happening again, we need the information. We need to know what's going on. So for the police department, long term, to say, we're just not going to put it out there, no, that's unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. But for right now, I can understand the problem the police department's got. It is an open investigation. Now, here's my idea, for what it's worth, as a way to resolve the issue. If it were me, and if the police department were to go along with this idea, what I would do is release the manifesto, but if there are names of individuals other than the perpetrator, redact them. If there are locations of other, what might be perceived as potential targets for these sort of attacks, redact them. All that the public is wanting to know, in my estimation, is what motivated this person, what drove them to do this. If that manifesto were released in a redacted manner, then I think it balances both things. The police can still carry on an open investigation, and the public can at least have some satisfaction of knowing why this happened. That's my thought on it. Now, there are some other things that have recently been reported. One of them, again, comes from the Daily Caller. I'll show it to you real fast. This one is a little more disturbing. The other one comes from thehill.com. We'll get to that in a second. But first, let's go to that other Daily Caller article. Take a look at this. Headline: Nashville police chief says he can't confirm whether shooter targeted Christian school for religious reasons. Again, from the Daily Caller News Foundation, Kate Anderson, contributor. The Nashville police chief told reporters Tuesday that he could not, quote, confirm whether or not the Covenant School's religious affiliation made it the target of a school shooting by a transgender former student. The Nashville Metro Police Department has yet to reveal the motive of the transgender shooter since their attack on the Christian elementary school that resulted in the deaths of 3 adults and 3 students on Monday. NMPD Chief John Drake said in response to a reporter's question during the press conference that he can't confirm that Hale attacked the school because of its faith. Drake further explained that while he was aware that important religious holidays were coming up, he did not know whether that had something to do with the attack. Quote, I'm not sure if the shooting happened because we're approaching Easter, the holy period of Easter, and all of that. I can't confirm any of that, Drake said during the press conference. They targeted that particular church. We do know they were a student at that church at one point. I think he meant to say school. But we're unsure right now if that was the reason why. A little further, the NMPD earlier on Tuesday refused to release the shooter's manifesto, which reportedly contains maps and writings related to the attack, according to Drake's statements during the press conference, or comment on the nature of the motive of the attack against a Christian elementary school other than it was a targeted attack. The shooter, who used male pronouns and occasionally went by a certain name, also told former teammate in an Instagram message leading up to the shooting that they were planning to die today and that they, quote, left more than enough evidence behind. Now, I'm going to say this. Again, I'll give the Nashville Metro Police Department a little bit of grace on this one. We don't purely know the motive. But to me, the more they keep saying we don't know is all the more reason for the police department to put out that manifesto as soon as they possibly can. People are going to want to know. Distrust and fear tend to grow in darkness. And as an old Supreme Court justice once said, sunlight is the world's best disinfectant. If we're going to get cured of this, we need to know what happened. We need to know why. I'll add one more thought on that point. If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and looks like a duck, it's a duck. If you're targeting a Christian school and you're killing students at a Christian school, then I'm going to be hard-pressed to not believe this was not an attack upon Christians. Now, if I'm wrong, hey, prove me wrong. NMPD, put some information out there. Show me what this person's motive was. But at this point, absent any other information, the only conclusion that I can logically come to is that this was an attack upon people's religious beliefs. And not just their beliefs, it was an attack upon their persons. Now, one last article, and this comes from thehill.com. This was reported a little earlier, well, late yesterday afternoon, but more in depth today. Let me get there we go. Nashville shooter was under a doctor's care for, quote, an emotional disorder. The 28-year-old shooter who killed 3 children and 3 adults at a Christian elementary school in Nashville, Tennessee on Monday had been under the care of a doctor for, quote, an emotional disorder, police said. NMPD Chief John Drake told reporters on Tuesday that the shooter was, quote, under the doctor's care for an emotional disorder, but would not disclose further details about the nature of the disorder. Hale was killed. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. The shooter was killed by police on scene. Law enforcement knew nothing about the treatment that the shooter was receiving, but the parents felt that the shooter, should not own weapons. The shooter was initially described by police as a teenager and then a 28-year-old individual. It was later revealed that the perpetrator was transgender, though police have referred to the shooter by gender assigned at birth. By the way, there is one more sentence I definitely want to read. Police also revealed the perpetrator had purchased 7 firearms at 5 different local gun stores, all of them legally. Take that, you gun grabbers. Okay. We know from reports that the perpetrator was under a doctor's care. We don't know for what. Here's the question that I have, and this is more of a legal question, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I have no idea what the answer is on this. A lot has been made over the years that we are definitely over-medicating individuals in this country. That we are giving people medications. We don't know what mixing them together is doing to them, from a psychological standpoint. And I guess my legal question is this. The perpetrator of the crime is deceased. Do their rights to privacy cease at death, or do they carry on past that? Because I think one of the things we need to know is, what was this person being treated for? And I think it's a fair question. What kind of medications were they on? Oh, well, that doesn't make any difference. Oh, really? Have you ever known of individuals that maybe unfortunately either by doctor's prescription or by their own hand started mixing medications that shouldn't be mixed together, and it really caused them to exhibit very strange behavior? I have. I've seen people do it. I know of people who've done it. You do too. So don't tell me that it's not possible in this person's case that they were on certain kinds of medication prescribed by a doctor, and maybe it was messing with them in such a way that it made their situation even worse and caused them, in part, or maybe laid the psychological foundation for them to go out and do what they did. But will we ever be allowed to find that out? Do rights to privacy in matters medical cease at death, such that if an independent journalist or a group of reporters or a news agency wanted to find out, they could file a FOIA request or something along those lines and obtain that information? I don't know. I think it would be helpful to find out what happened with this person. But we're not going to know yet. We're finding out things and we're not finding out things. I think that's the frustration that a lot of people have right now. So we'll see how all this turns out. But anyway, what do you think about it? As we wrap this up, as always, please do me some favors. Number one, if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please do so. Number two, hit the notification bell. I want to make sure that you're aware when a new video comes out. 3, if you've got friends of yours that you think would enjoy this content, share it around. I mean, as I've said often, I'm a one-man band. I'll take all the help I can get. And number 4, if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button. My name's Brian Trippett. I'm your Front Porch Conservative, and I'll see you next time.